The 2019 Ohio State Fair happens July 24th through August 4th. For more information, daily schedules, and to hear season 1 of this podcast, visit ohiostatefair.com. That's ohiostatefair.com. This is a special bonus episode of A Fair to Remember, and I'm your host, Vince Tornero. Think of this like snack size version of a normal episode. So in this one, we're going to go into the Cox Fine Arts Center. It was really cool because last year I went into the Arts Center, was looking around at photos, and I was really struck by this one of two horses. And as I was talking with people who were there, they said that there was a story behind this photo that I was looking at. And so I started thinking about it, started digging, started looking around, and I eventually found who took the photo, and that's where we begin.
Sally Schaefer. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. I currently live in Thornville, Ohio, and I work for the Columbus Public Health Department as an HIV linkage to care specialist.
And you're a pretty darn good amateur photographer.
I'm working on it. So. Well, I grew up in the north end of Columbus on Cleveland Avenue at East North Broadway. We lived in an apartment over my father's garage. My father, I remember being a good photographer. However, moving to the country as a late teenager and then graduating from Ohio State, I never picked up a camera until about 10 years ago. I think you should always shoot what you love. In my case, that would be horses, and my mother always considered that as a birth defect as opposed to anything. She said there was just absolutely nothing in our family, nothing in our life that would have directed me to that interest, but yet from the age of 2 or 3, that's all I could talk about. So I just felt probably about 10 years ago, it was time to pick up a camera.
But what was it as a young kid about horses? You don't know.
You don't know, and it's not something you choose. It chooses you. I guess probably like with anyone that does any type of art, it's just a real intimate feeling. You feel you want to take that camera, and it's something that the two of you can create, and it's your vision, not necessarily someone else's, and it's all about seeing the light. The whole art and science of photography is based on light, and we all live under that same sky, but we all see a different light, and it allows me, I want to think of it as somewhat of a form of expedited painting.
So tell me about the piece of art that you are entering this year.
This year? Well, again, like last year, it's equine, horse related. Last year was a real special piece for me. This year reminds me, I just remember growing up in Columbus and, I went to Linden Elementary and by the grace of God, I had so many friends that would take me to the state fairgrounds, just down 17th Avenue. And I remember sitting there for hours and hours on end and memorizing riders and horses and carriages. And I thought, what, one of these days when I grow up, I want to be here. And to me, that was the center of my universe, was the state fair. And I can't even tell you how many hours I sat in that Coliseum. And so the picture this year is, I titled it "The Lady is a Champ." And I think it's a very elegant image of a lady, and she's wearing the most elegant of hats. And even though you cannot see her face in the picture, it could be any one of us little girls that sit there and had that dream that that's what they wanted to do. She was nothing but elegance and class in handling those horses. So as you sit near the outgate, there's an in-gate and an outgate for the horses, and at the Ohio State Fair in the evenings, the horses always come out. Not quite getting the image I wanted at the outgate, I walked outside and I thought, wow, would you look at this? It's a pair of black Percherons. The horse is emerging from somewhat of a darker blackened background because they're coming out the exit gate and the sun is setting and the chrome on the harness is illuminated, and it just looked like the horses were coming right through the harness, and they of course I shot them straight on, and they were coming right at you. And it's a pretty imposing pair of horses. And I thought, wow, yeah, she's living my dream. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm not necessarily a religious person, but certainly a spiritual person. And I know there's probably been a dozen or so times that there have been images that come out of my camera that I can't really take credit for. And that happened to be one of them. So last year, it was a pair of horse heads that had formed a perfect heart. And the little backstory behind that is I had a dear friend who was also a client of mine that boarded another horse at my farm. And she learned that she was dying of pancreatic cancer, and her name was Carrie Goss. And Carrie and her longtime partner, Richard, decided they wanted to get married. And it was a collaboration of three of us that we decided, you know what, hey, let's do some pictures and maybe for Carrie's wedding present. And Carrie was very, very ill, and she had two horses boarded at another farm, and time was really getting to be crunch time. She was so ill, and she was in South Carolina. Her two horses remained here, and it was on a March day, and the snow was flying, and the worst time of year to even begin to take pictures of a horse would be overcast, cloudy skies with snow. We had shot for probably an hour. Nothing suited me, and I just thought, these are just pictures of horses. This is not what I was hoping for. It started snowing. We walked the horses in the barn. They touched noses. They formed a perfect heart. And again, that was one of those divinely placed images. And but I remember sitting in the car, and I just had tears in my eyes because I thought, it is so perfect. It almost looks like it was a Photoshop creation, and there was absolutely no retouch. There was nothing. There was nothing I changed other than the image from color to black and white. And I just remember thinking, wow. Again, it was the last shot of the day, as was the picture for this year. That was the last shot of the day. Carrie kept that picture with her all through hospice, and she eventually passed away about 3 months later. The picture with Carrie's horses that did so well at the state fair last year, it was sold, and an absolutely lovely lady by the name of Allison Getz purchased the image. Alice and I have since become pretty good friends, and in her 60s, and she's just taking up riding again. She come to the farm, and I put her on a horse, and I'm thrilled to death for her. And she, in turn, has purchased additional a print to give to a good friend of hers. But the nice part about the picture for Carrie, every time I've sold that print, every bit of the money has went towards horse rescue. So that money's put right back into. That's not a for-profit picture. That was a gift to me, that image, and I feel it needs to be a gift to others. So that print has probably generated around $2,000. And I've done things for like the different harness horse organizations that are raising money to save harness racing at county fair racetracks. So it's went everything from there to horse rescue. So very pleased with that.
You grew up, in an urban environment, and now you actually have kind of fulfilled a dream of sorts where you live now.
I do. I have an 85-acre farm. I have one 50-acre farm that I lease, and I call that my island of misfit toys. It's a very inexpensive farm to lease, and horses that just need a safe, soft landing spot for a period of time, they end up at my island of misfit toys. So I try to do what I can.
About the fair, anything special about the fair when you were younger that you loved besides horses?
I never got out of the horse barn.
And you totally got to see Sally's work. So go to @Ohio State Fair on Instagram, or better yet, go to the Cox Fine Arts Center during the 2019 fair and check it out in person. A Fair to Remember, presented by the Ohio State Fair and produced, edited, sound designed by Wessler Media. Executive producer and PR manager is Alicia Schultz. Additional script writing and editing by Becca Kerr. Every episode expertly mastered by Joey Gerwin at Orange Udio. Special thanks to all of our guests and anyone who did anything at all to make this podcast a reality. And thank you for attending the fair year after year and upholding this wonderful and fun tradition. Last, and of course not least, got to mention my wife, Melina, who listened patiently to various rewrites, versions, and edits of all of these episodes. I love you. And I'm your host, Vince Tornero. This has been A Fair to Remember. I'll see you on the Midway. The fun, the draw, the excitement of a fair, that should be enjoyed by everybody. And this year, the Ohio State Fair, it's going to be more accessible and inclusive of individuals with disabilities. Now, this is in partnership with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, complimentary wheelchair mobility charging stations. They will be available throughout the grounds and are listed on the fair maps. And these fair maps, they can be picked up at the Fair Guest Information Services booths. Second, fairgoers who are blind or low vision, they can use this technology called Ira. This is really amazing stuff. Now, Ira, it's going to connect to an agent who can help you with navigation. In collaboration with O'Cali, a sensory-friendly morning is going to take place July 31st, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. throughout the fair. The lights and the music on all the rides are going to be turned off, and fairgoers can enjoy the many educational activities, including those in the Oasis at the fair. That is the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Park. Now, if you want more information on all this and all this great stuff about making the fair more accessible, you can find it by emailing info@expo.ohio.gov. That's info@expo.ohio.gov. Or you can plan to stop by a guest information services booth during the fair.